you're gonna break into. Crazy love, you got me worried. I don't know why you make me blue. Every time I call your telephone line, I gotta stop and hang up on you. Gives me the vapors, got me weak in the knees, Lord.
Talking Boxing with Billy C. It began as a podcast, went live on the net, and transformed into a full-blown empire. Across the web, on Fight Now TV, and on radio stations around the world. It's the only daily boxing talk radio show on the planet, hosted by the only guy with the balls to do it. Many have stepped into the ring. Many have tried to take the belt. And one by one, they've fallen. Another victim of the undisputed heavyweight champion of boxing talk radio. Talking Boxing with Billy C is on now.
My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C studio in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Caligione. It's time for Talking Boxing with Billy C. Good morning, good day, good evening, whenever you're listening or watching. Hope you're doing all right. We've got a busy show scheduled for today. As long as the power stays on. You know, I'm really getting sick of being in beautiful upstate New York. We lose friggin' power every god darn day. God darn it. Yeah, 3-4 times yesterday, twice already this morning. I see that the Fight Now router's all effed up, from that. So they're probably not going to get the live show when they come on in about a half hour. So, hey, if all of a sudden everything goes black and you're watching or listening live, hey, you may be the only ones that get this show today. And by the way, it's not even doing anything outside. It's raining. When it rains up here, everybody loses power. So, anyway, the show is being brought to you in part by Campanaro Tomkovich. If you're looking for a lawyer, use the ones that keep my ass out of trouble. That is Campanaro Tomkovich, 845-221-4099. Tell them Billy C sent you. And remember, I'm going to pick up the consultation fee, so call him anyway, man. 845-221-4099. The show is also being brought to you in part by the Turning Stone Resort and Casino in Verona, New York, and their show that's taking place Friday, June 7th, Showtime event during the International Boxing Hall of Fame weekend. Get yourself some tickets. This show will sell out, guaranteed, man. And I'm going to be ringside. I already got some emails from some of you guys, the viewers and listeners that are going to be around. As a matter of fact, my man John, who's been a long-time listener, he said he even got some really good ringside seats. I doubt if you drag your feet and expect to get some tickets the night of the event, I doubt you're going to be able to get them. So if you want good seats, now's the time to get them. And here, the truth of the matter is the venue is great. So any seat is a good seat in that place. But ringside's going to be really cool. So anyway, check it out, www.BillyCBoxing.com. You can see the fight posters, the top one on the right. Just click it, and you'll get a direct link to the Turning Stone box office. So make sure you tell them Billy C sent you. No, I'm not. I'm responding to a question in the chat room. And if you are watching or listening live, make sure you check out the chat room at BillyCBoxing.com. And hang out in there. Get your questions, comments, and thoughts live on the air. And my man Hanging Fire says, "Am I near Rochester?" No. I'm. New York is a pretty big state, And when you get to Albany, if you go from like New York City directly north, you hit Albany. To go to Rochester and Buffalo, you got to kind of hang a left and start going west, and that's when the state, goes for another 6 hours, if you're driving. I'm north. I'm on a direct plane with New York City. Albany, from Albany, you continue north towards Canada, and that's where we are. About an hour from there. But anyway, we got some emails. We got a lot of news to talk about today. ESPN laid off 400 people yesterday. What will that do to boxing? I don't know. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Miguel Cotto, the guy who said he was going to retire like 3 fights ago, he's going to be coming back again in the fall. We got an update with Emilio Marino, who is breaking ties with Golden Boy. Now, we've been telling you, Golden Boy ain't all what it's cracked up to be. And I personally don't think that they're that great for the sport. We're going to start to see a trend of fighters leaving Golden Boy because of broken promises and stuff like that. And we'll talk about Emilio Marino's deal. Never say never. But, when fighters retire, usually they retire for, I don't know, at least 6 months, right? Well, not Fraudly embarrassing. He's coming back, and I'll talk about that, and I'll give you my thoughts on why. Demetrius Andrade, now we've been critical of him. We've watched him mature. We've watched him seemingly have all the tools and bide his time. Well, he's going to be getting a world title shot. We talked about the purse bid a few weeks ago, and we'll talk about the actual fight today. Frezequendo is going to be fighting in a couple of weeks in Indiana, and they named his opponent. We were just talking about Juan Urango yesterday, and guess what? He's making a comeback. We got the update on the great show that's coming at us. That's going to be on NBC Sports, headlined by Brian Jennings. I'll talk about that. We got a whole bunch of other stuff to talk about as well. Don't forget, Scotty Krause will be joining us at the top of the hour, as well as my man Alex Papale, and we're going to be doing today's blast from the past on Lloyd Marshall, Boxing Hall of Famer, another one of these guys who fought in the 40s and the 50s. Great fighter who never got a shot at a world title because of the color of his skin. Wait till you hear who this guy beat. Talk about a quality fighter. Never won a title, by the way. Never won any kind of a title, even a state title. He was robbed a couple of times, so we'll be talking with Alex on that. Couple of emails to read. EQX says, we all know Floyd and Canelo will fight because they both work with Golden Boy. The top-ranked Golden Boy Mayweather beef is holding boxing as a whole back. Bottom line, the best fights are not being made and have not for some time. You hit that right in the head, EQX. I mean, that's definitely true. I hope that the Floyd and Canelo fight actually comes off. I like you, think that it's a no-brainer that it will come off because of the relationships that Mayweather and Canelo both have with Golden Boy, and they both have their own promotional companies too. We do know that the negotiations have begun, but I haven't heard anything on how they're progressing or not progressing. So we will keep everyone posted on that. As far as the beef ruining boxing as a whole, you're 100% correct, man. And it's a shame that this is taking place. And what's happening is, I'll tell you right now what's happening. boxing promoters, and I'm talking about the main two, all right now, and there's only two. The two drivers of the sport is obviously Golden Boy and Top Rank. And what's happening is that they're developing, obviously, as we've seen in the last half a dozen years, they are really building up their stables with all levels of fighters. And it's been staying at home. In other words, fighters from their own stable fight each other and everything else. We've seen that. We knew that that's been going on for a while. But what's taken another turn is that now television networks are aligning themselves with specific promoters. What these promoters are doing, and if you haven't figured it out yet, if you haven't seen the trend, and by the way, let's sprinkle in the fact that the sanctioning bodies, some of them, are starting to align themselves with the same, with specific promoters, which in turn are aligned with the television networks and everything else. If you don't see what's really taking place here, then maybe you're not looking at it the way I am. I see these guys, primarily Top Rank and Golden Boy, trying to emulate the UFC. The UFC is basically a league, and that's what these fight promoters are trying to do. And the reason why I think it's so bad, on one hand, the UFC has proven to us that it's good. It works. It keeps the fighters busy. They fight. But what's bad in boxing is that it further divides our sport. So as much as Golden Boy, which you see now, they have their own weekly television fights, even smaller cards, Golden Boy produced. They're in bed with Showtime, obviously. Top Rank, they have their own stuff. I don't know, it's not as frequent as Golden Boy, but they're working on it, and as these sanctioning bodies develop relationships, long-term and solid relationships with, a promoter of choice, you're going to see this. And although it's good for the promoter, and although the promoter will make buku dollars, and although it's good for whoever fights under that promoter's banner, as long as there's enough competition within the weight class in which they fight, and it's good for the sanctioning bodies and the networks, it's bad for the sport because you're going to end up with severe division. If you think it's divided now, if this keeps going the way it is, it's going to be really bad. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to create a model that's been proven successful and kind of twist it within a sport that really you can't control the way Dana White was able to control MMA, but they're trying to do the next closest thing, which is what we see happening today. So that's what's going on, at least in my opinion. Listen, I'm going to take a break. I got another comment from EQX. We got several others. And then we got Scotty Krause coming up at the top of the hour. We'll be right back.
If you're in upstate New York and you need a trucking company, then you need Rosselli Enterprises. Rosselli Enterprises is trucking at its finest. They have it all. Dump trucks, dump trailers, walk-in floors, flatbeds, flowboys, tankers, loaders, and a full line of roll-off containers for any job, big or small. Rosselli Enterprises is also the source for all your sand, gravel, and topsoil needs. Visit them on the web at RosselliTrucking.com or call 315-433-5115. That's 315-433-5115 and tell them Billy C sent you.
Are you ready, America? Then let's get it on with Fight Now TV. It's time, fight fans. Your channel has arrived. All the fights, all the names, all the action. From world-class boxing events to mixed martial arts showdowns and other combat sports matchups, Fight Now TV delivers the hits and more. Call your television provider and tell them you want to get it on with Fight Now TV. For more details, go to fightnow.com.
We've got a great matchup tonight. Fighting out of the left corner is the #1 ranked contender.
No, he is not.
I'm sorry, but who are you?
I am the IBO computer. I am programmed to provide only fair and unbiased boxing rankings. This fighter is the #15 ranked contender.
Fair and unbiased boxing rankings? That's a new concept.
Actually, it is not. The IBO has provided unbiased computerized rankings for many years.
Well, we've still got a great fight tonight, folks. In the left corner is the #15 ranked contender.
The IBO, the champion of integrity. Learn more at IBOBoxing.com.
Check out BillyCBoxing.com now, or feel the wrath of the mighty mustache.
Oh, that hurts. Why are you doing
that's my face. I hate you.
That's BillyCBoxing.com. Consider this your warning.
As a young boy, all Billy C dreamed about was one day having his own catchphrase.
And we're back. And we're back.
One boy, one dream, one day, everyone will say.
And we're back. 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 And we're back.
Catchphrase coming soon to a theater near you.
And we're back. You're listening to the Talking Boxing with Billy C show. Yeah, we're doing the we're doing the weather channel here in the chat room. We're getting weather reports. Arizona was 92 degrees and beautiful yesterday. You know, and here in upstate New York, we were in the mid 80s, hazy, hot, and humid. Couldn't even breathe. You know, I was talking to my man John from LDL TV. He says, "Oh man, talk about humidity. It's 95 here, and you can't even breathe." You know, he's in Florida. You know, so give a shout out to John and my man JJ. Yeah, I got to be nice to JJ. You know, I don't want to pick on him too much. You know, especially I pick on him enough when I see him in person. He could take it. He picks on me too. But from what I understand, he's going to be the new producer for the Talk to Me Man show. So we're excited about that. And you know, JJ's the man. I got to be cool because, you know, he'll button me. He'll hit the button, you know, whenever he wants. If I'm not behaving myself, he'll hit the mighty button. He's the keeper of the button. You know, he knows what I'm talking about. EQX has one other comment. He says, if you're saying that fighters from prior generations are better than today's fighters, you're correct. Thanks. Well, then let me finish this thought, because I was going to say the same thing I just noticed on this first sentence. He says the level of competition isn't there for Floyd. I agree, because the level of competition was much better in prior generations only because boxing was more popular, more people. The pool of boxers was bigger. Today, there's so much money made in other professional sports that the pool of boxers is smaller. Therefore, you know, when you have a smaller pool of fighters, you know, obviously, you know, you're going to have less amount of quality fighters. So, I mean, it makes sense. You know, let me finish this thought before I comment on that. Obviously, I see this is going to you-know-who. He says, these younger fighters don't have the fundamentals, no footwork. They think boxing is standing in front of your opponent and just slugging it out. And I think Floyd would be even a better fighter if he was boxing in prior generations, because of the level of competition would make him better. Steel sharpens steel. You know, EQX, I agree with you 100% on that. And probably for two different reasons. If Floyd, you see, this is my hang up with Floyd, and I've said this many times, and I can't stand talking about this guy. Can't stand it. I wish you guys would just bring up other topics, but I'm just going to say this. You know, my hang up with Floyd is that he hasn't challenged himself. Now, you could argue and say, oh, well, you know, and I give him credit for fighting Robert Guerrero. You know, you could argue and say, well, he fought Miguel Cotto. He fought Victor Ortiz, you know, just, you know, Juan Manuel Marquez, blah, blah, blah. You know, but the thing is that, you know, just, I'm going to throw your words back in your face. Steel sharpens steel. And I think that the best Floyd, now this is my sincere, I'm totally sincere about this. I think that Floyd very well could have went down in history as the greatest fighter ever if he challenged himself more. Once Floyd got past those Casamayor fights and all of that, and he left Top Rank, Floyd has shifted gears, and he's focused on basically a couple of things. One, making more money. He succeeded in that. Number two, his branding, which, you know, hands more money to his bank account, which he succeeded in. All right, and he's also been very keen on protecting his O. All right, that to him is his legacy. He feels that by picking fights that he has a high percentage of winning will preserve his O. And in Floyd's mind, and in my opinion, the only mistake he's made so far is that he's putting all his eggs in the O basket, thinking that his legacy will be secure because of that. And he may be right. Time will tell. We don't know. We won't know until long after he's retired. So, but I agree with the statement, steel sharpens steel, and that's been my hang-up. That's why I've said things, and I know a lot of the Floyd fans don't understand what I mean, but that's why I've said, if Floyd loses a fight, we may very well see, after that loss, we may very well see the best Floyd that exists that we may never have seen yet. We've seen glimpses of it, but, once that O is gone, if it ever goes, then Floyd's not going to worry about protecting his own. Maybe he challenges himself a little more. That's what I hope for. As much as I can't stand the guy, I wouldn't mind being able to witness the greatest fighter in the history of the sport. But to me, fighters that challenge themselves and go above and beyond what people expect from them is what makes them lifelong legacies and top fighters of the sport, a la the Sugars, Sugar Ray Robinson, Sugar Ray Leonard, obviously are both up there because of their huge challenges, and for the most part, you even have to mention Roy Jones Jr. in that mix because of some of the things he did in terms of moving up and fighting heavyweights and stuff like that. And believe it or not, another guy I'm not too keen on, but you have to throw in B-Hop. Bernard Hopkins, really, you can't say ducked fighters. So I think that it's all relative. Thanks for the email, EQX. Keep them coming. The Yojo 2011 says, I was being real, Billy. See? I liked that shirt. I thought he was making fun of me, because we were just talking about the weather, and that's why I had on that flannel. It was freezing cold 2 days ago, and for some reason they got that shot up on YouTube, me with the old man flannel. Hey, as long as I'm not wearing that flannel in July, shivering and freezing, putting on a snorkel jacket, at least I'm young enough to live. Once, please, somebody, if you see me wearing a flannel shirt or a jacket one time up at the Hall of Fame when it's 100 degrees out and I'm freezing, somebody put a bullet in me, will you? Put me out of my misery, because I don't want to be like that. But he says, I like boxing. Whatever happened to Felix Trinidad? He says, I wish he and Oscar had a rematch. Is Tito brain damage now? De La Hoya seems okay, but I never see Trinidad on TV. Trinidad is a huge star in Puerto Rico. He still is. His last fight was with Roy Jones Jr. He's not brain dead. He's fine, and he's very wealthy. And you know what? His days came and went. It's over. He's he's a national treasure for Puerto Rico. So that's where he is now. So I appreciate it. He says he wants to know if this show's on every day. Yeah, man, it's on every day. We do this show every day, and you're catching a internet version. And if you want to make sure you get the show every day, premium podcast subscriptions are the answer. And if you're looking for info on that, like the rest of you should, visit the website, www.BillyCBoxing.com, and click on one of the banners that say Billy C Premium. Bronner B says, I found out that Floyd is going to fight Canelo. Really? Bronner Beast, cool. I haven't heard that, but if you know this for sure, great, man. Thanks for letting us know. He says, no catch weight, no rehydration clause. It will be at 154. I never felt Floyd was obligated to fight anyone at 54. He was obligated to fight the best in his own weight class, but I'm glad people accused him of being scared, because now some mouths will be shut. I'm also glad that Khan can't fight in September due to Ramadan, that Devon broke his hand and won't heal in time for September. I do think Floyd would have fought those bums, but Canelo is getting the lesson. Okay, I hope so. I hope you're right, Broner Beast, but thanks for the update. XD Raven says, what do you make of the rumors about Antonio Margarito making a comeback? I could see him fighting Mosley again down the line. I haven't heard that. I haven't heard that either. Where you guys hearing all this stuff? First of all, I think the medical issues are going to be a concern for Margarito. Remember, his eyeball was hanging out of his head practically, and the top-notch staff at the New York State Athletic Commission permitted him to fight when no one else in their right mind would. So I think that's an issue that he's going to have to overcome medically. If he did decide to make a comeback, the old Antonio Margarito, the one that Floyd feared, and the one that really prior to him, actually prior to the Shane Mosley fight, was virtually unbeatable. And after the Mosley fight, he was clearly a different fighter. So I don't know. I maybe he's doing it for money. I don't know, but I do agree if he does come back, which I would find hard to believe, but if he did, then Shane Mosley would be a good fight, except you're forgetting one small detail. Antonio Margarito is with Top Rank, or was with Top Rank, and Shane Mosley is not. But then again, Shane Mosley might be separating himself from Golden Boy, so you never know. Thanks for the email, XD Raven. Dwight Sharp, haven't heard from him in a while. What's up, brother? He says, yes, that was a grill. Thanks, man. He's enlightening me and educating me about Adrian Broner. I asked yesterday, was that a grill? Now, listen, man, I got to be honest with you. I don't know what the thing is with the grills, man. I just, to me, maybe because I'm old, maybe because I'm Italian. And trust me, Italians love gold. I'm not a jewelry guy, but I don't know what these guys and gals, I've even seen some girls wearing these grills. I don't understand it. It makes you look like Jaws from the old James Bond movies, So, I just don't get it. A fashion statement, whatever, all right? I don't get it. But with that said, I have seen some grills that, are a little catchy. I mean, not that I would ever wear one personally, not that I have anything against them, but not that I would ever wear one. Plus in these economic times, you wear a pretty expensive looking grill and you might get rolled over in an alleyway or something and end up with no teepees left in your head. But I've seen a couple that are okay. I've seen a lot that are over the top. But let me just say this. Adrian Broner's grill looked like braces to me, man. There was spaces in them and everything else. I've seen some grills that look pretty decent. I saw one time that was gold. It was like gold color, and then it had a star in the middle of the tooth that was with white gold. So it kind of like was kind of cool looking. You could really see it. But anyway, his just looked like Orphan Annie wearing braces. So I don't know, man. He's not too stylish, in my opinion. So, but then again, what the hell do I know? I'm still wearing flannel shirts, for God's sakes. Thanks for enlightening me on that one, Dwight. He also says, I'm pulling for Kessler. Kessler's a better fighter, but I'm pretty positive there's going to be a trilogy here. You might be right, because these two guys can make a lot of money fighting each other. Obviously, they're both combined age is almost 70 years old. One's 35, one's 34. I'm a little torn on Kessler. I'm going to break down those fights and stuff later in the week, that fight later in the week. But I'm just, Kessler reminds me of Joe Calzaghe. And honestly, I'm one of the few guys that never was impressed with Calzaghe. Kessler kind of reminds me of him. Now Carl Froch, I love Carl Froch. Don't get me wrong. Kessler is, I agree, Kessler is more talented than Carl Froch, boxing skill-wise. But I don't know, man. I don't know. That's going to be a tough one. But we'll have to wait and see what it happens. But the one thing I'm a little concerned about with Carl Froch is the fact that Carl, he fights with that his hands down, and a guy like Kessler who's technically sound, and he's going to give Froch some trouble. There's no question. Anybody that's technically sound, and as Carl Froch ages, that style is going to hurt him more and more. So we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, hey, listen, I'm going to take a short break. When I come back, I got Scotty Krause coming on. We'll be chatting about the fights from last week, the fights from this week. Also, I want to get his thoughts on ESPN and some stuff about that and with their layoffs, and I got some reasons why and where their money's going. I also want to tell you that I have one other email that I'm going to try to get to a little bit later from my man Jeffrey DeRuin. He has a question on Adrian Bronner, and he also was our last trivia, or one of our most recent. He wasn't the last trivia question winner, but he was one of the trivia question winners, and he's got some updates on that. All of that is coming up in about 2.
Are you ready, America? Then let's get it on with Fight Now TV. It's time, fight fans. Your channel has arrived. All the fights, all the names, all the action. From world-class boxing events to mixed martial arts showdowns and other combat sports matchups, Fight Now TV delivers the hits and more. Call your television provider and tell them you want to get it on with Fight Now TV. For more details, go to fightnow.com.
Broadcasting in all corners of the globe, on the web and radio.
He would scoff at a stretch of that man, I
would think. You're listening to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. from upstate New York and the good old US of A.
Boxing is here to stay because we are here to stay.
The best 2 hours of boxing talk on the airwaves.
Hey, fight fans, check out KOFantasyBoxing.com. KO Fantasy Boxing is boxing's only trademarked fantasy game. Check it out, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Select your own gym, your own fighters, track them through a season that can last from 3 months to a year, depending upon which league you join. You got to check this out, man, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. Join it today. Again, www.KOFantasyBoxing.com. And tell him Billy C sent ya.
Now back to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C, the only radio host man enough to take a punch from Mike Tyson.
Wait a minute, man. Hold on there. Jeremy, man, I need you to take this one, all right?
Wait, what? No way. I can't do this.
Need I remind you I'm Billy C, damn it? Now put on that mustache and get in there.
Hey, look at me. I'm Billy C. Crap.
The undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. It's Talkin' Boxing with Billy C.
Test 1 2. Test 1 2. My fellow Americans, good evening. Welcome back to Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. It's great to be here discussing the sweet science with everybody. I love boxing. I love talking boxing. It's what I do.
Bill.
Oh, wait, what?
Bill.
Why are you interrupting me? What?
Wrong.
What's the problem?
Billy,
what?
C.
I did not have...
We're gonna have to ask
wrong
you.
Speech. What do you mean wrong, Billy C? What's going on here? Fine, I'll go. I just wanted to talk some boxing on TPSradio.net. That's all I wanted to do. I don't need your damn show. I'll get my own talking wrestling with the other Billy C. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah. I've always been a Hulkamaniac anyway.
Broadcasting live, brother. Welcome back to Talking Boxing with Billy C on the mighty TPSradio.net, brother. What you gonna do, brother?
And what was that line again? What's the catchphrase? Oh yeah. And we're back. Yeah. You're listening to the Billy C Show. Well, I'm sorry, to the Talking Boxing with Billy C Show. I got to get the name right. You're watching us on Fight Now television. Hopefully they're getting the feed. It looks like they are. With all the power failures we're having up here, you know, it's just great living in upstate New York. You know, and when the rain just sprinkles, the power tinkles. I don't know. Speaking of tinkles, joining us right now, Scotty Krause. What's up, brother?
What's up, Bill?
I don't know how that fit you, but I don't know. I had to say something. You know. But anyway, what was the weather there? We're doing the Weather Channel report here on the Billy C Show. You know, we got different weather reports from all over with the people in the chat room. What was the weather like in Maryland, man?
Well, the sun's just coming up. Hello?
Yeah, I hear you. I'm jealous because there's no sun in sight here.
Well, it's just starting to get daylight, and the birds are chirping, but I haven't been outside, so not quite sure what the temperature is.
The birds are chirping. The ravens are great. The Orioles are still good. It's a great day in Maryland, huh?
It's hardly ever a great day in Maryland, Bill, but I guess I'll have to take it.
Yeah. Well, listen, let's talk a little about. Listen, I hate to take away from. Let's talk about the Matisse fight first, because what an animal. I mean, Lucas Matisse fighting this past weekend against Lamont Peterson. It was a fight that both you and I were very into and looking forward to. I'm a little surprised that Lamont Peterson. You know what? Maybe I should rephrase that. I guess I'm not surprised. Lamont Peterson is a quality fighter, but I think Matisse has made that next step. You know, he got robbed in a couple of fights. He should arguably be undefeated right now. But what I think, Scott, is I think he's actually gotten better from those fights. And the line that I'm saying this week is that he's become very proficient in getting fighters to fight his game, which was evident on Saturday against Lamont Peterson. What's your thoughts?
Well, that's exactly what happened. I thought, to me, I was wrong about most of the fights this weekend, but this is the one that I just knew in my bones it was going to end this way. And it's just no other way I could see it going. Lamont Peterson loves to come forward. He's not your classic slick boxer. A lot of people speak of him almost like he is, but he's not. He likes to come forward, and he likes to wage war on the inside a lot of times, and because of that, he gets caught. And he was put down against Timothy Bradley, of all people, who's not a big puncher. So, to me, I just saw this stylistically as a fight that just wasn't going to go Peterson's way. In the first round, he proved me wrong. He was actually, rather than coming forward, he was moving laterally, and I thought he had some success. It was an even first round. Not a whole lot happened, and it was a feeling-out process overall. But I thought the way he was approaching it was different than what I thought he would do and the right way to fight him. But by the middle of round 2, he was already standing in front of Matisse and trying to stand his ground and fight like the warrior that he is inside. He's just going to resort to fighting that way eventually, and it didn't take very long. And once he did that, once he was standing in front of him, he was no longer moving. I knew it was just a matter of time, of Matisse connecting, and he was trying to connect. I mean, he says he doesn't go for the knockout and all this stuff. He trusts the judges, did baloney. He learned from those 2 losses, a knockout is much better than a decision. So you could tell he's learning how to set it up, and he's learning how, like you said, to make his opponent fight his fight, and he did that to perfection against Lamont Peterson.
You know, it really's got me with this question in my mind. Obviously, Floyd Mayweather does the same thing in a different style, but he is very successful at making fighters fight his fight. I mean, that's what he's known for. I mean, we saw it against Robert Dos Guerrero. We saw it against every opponent he's ever had. I mean, he does that. It would be interesting to me. Now, I know that Floyd is fighting at a bigger weight class, but all the Floyd lovers and everything says that, he's fighting bigger guys. He's really a natural welterweight and this and that. Wouldn't it be interesting? And I know that they're talking about a Danny Garcia against Matisse fight. They already got that in the works and everything else. But wouldn't it be interesting to see if Matisse and Floyd Mayweather fought each other, who would actually win? Because and I don't mean the fight, I mean win the battle of who's going to fight whose style. I'm just curious to know, even though Matisse has fought several guys, nobody near the quality of Floyd, but several guys that like to box, and going into the fight, their game plan is to box and stay away from Matisse's obvious punching power. I'm just curious to know if the guy would be able to put his style and make his fight against a guy like Floyd Mayweather. What's your quick thoughts on that? Is it possible?
I would love to see that fight. That's the fight I was thinking of, even though the Danny Garcia fight is the obvious fight that's going to take place. To to me, I would love to see a Matisse-Mayweather fight. There's very few opponents out there. You know this, to talk about it ad nauseum. There's very few opponents that represent, to me, risk for Floyd Mayweather and make me scratch my head and think, wow, this could be interesting. Most of the possible opponents for Mayweather, I'm not interested in, because I see them all as one-sided fights. I just don't see them giving Floyd a lot of trouble. The only two fights that are somewhat reasonable to hope for right now that boxing fans would like to see is, number one, a fight with Canelo, which Floyd's already starting to balk at and claiming Canelo needs to come down to 147, which is never going to happen. He's too young, he's too big. And Matisse. After this past Saturday night, that was one of the fights I was thinking, you know, I would really love to see that fight. And I think that's a fight that could definitely be sold to boxing fans. You got the power puncher and the boxer. That's always interesting. And you would think, well, you know, Floyd could outbox him, but Matisse is such a strong guy. I don't see any problem with coming up to 147 for him too, by the way. But he's such he seems to just have that will that you're not going to make him fight your fight. He's going to come at you and fight his fight. Floyd's going to fight his, and let's see who wins. I mean, I would love to see that. I think boxing fans would too, but don't hold your breath. I don't think there's any way in the world Floyd Mayweather's going to get in a ring with Matisse. He just represents too much risk, and it's unfortunately probably never going to happen.
You know, I don't know, man. I don't know. You know, Floyd, first of all, it is a good fight because Matisse is not exactly old. You know, he doesn't fit the bill that you know, Floyd kind of, you know, that fighter that Floyd goes after. But I actually could see it happening because Floyd might think he's got the size advantage, and he may look at Matisse as being a one-dimensional fighter. I think it would come down to you know, his thought, Floyd's thought that you know, this guy's not going to change my style, and if he fights his style, and let's be real, if he gets away with his style, and you know, fights in spurts the way he did against Robert Guerrero, he will win a decision against Matisse. I'm just curious to see if Matisse could change the tide the way he has successfully in all his fights. You know, so
yeah. Well, Matisse would represent a danger that no other fighter, I can't think, maybe going back to Diego Corrales, who Mayweather handled quite easily, let's remember. But I can't think of another fighter that represents the danger throughout a fight as Matisse. I mean, Robert Guerrero, Victor Ortiz, you know, even Miguel Cotto, these aren't guys that can take your head off with just one shot. I mean, Matisse has maybe, you know, the best power in the sport, pound for pound. He may be the purest power puncher that's in the sport right now, and he's getting better. And even the two fights that he lost, he had Judah and Alexander both on the canvas, and they're pretty good boxers. I think it would be a very interesting fight. I think Danny Garcia is not. I think that's definitely the plan. If he blows out Garcia, I mean, if he knocks out Danny Garcia, then I think you're going to start hearing the voices. You're going to start hearing boxing fans say, we want Floyd. And we'll see then if, you know, if Floyd would be willing to do that fight. I'm saying right now that's never going to happen. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think that would ever happen because of the danger level, the risk that Matisse is every second of the fight. I mean, through 12 rounds, there's always that risk. And I just don't think Floyd takes that kind of risk.
Well, I you know, everybody wants to see him fight Canelo. I listen, I like Canelo. I think Canelo's going to be a big pay-per-view draw. I think he will be the guy that replaces Floyd as far as the top guy in terms of fanfare. It may be close between him and Chavez Jr., depending upon if Chavez can you know, become serious with his career. But I think that Danny Garcia against Matisse, I don't see Danny Garcia. Listen, if Zab Judah can put Danny Garcia in some trouble, be as it may in the later rounds, but still, and put him in some trouble. Matisse is going to knock him out. And I like Danny Garcia, don't get me wrong. Matisse gets stronger as fights go. I've never seen him get tired. I've seen him start off looking more tired than he finishes fights. So it's going to be interesting to see. But anyway, let's move on. A fight that, well, before we get to the fight that's really got me going, Shane Mosley fought Pablo Cesar Cano. I watched the fight. I thought it was close. I was a little disappointed in Cano. I thought Cano would win. I love Shane Mosley. Don't get me wrong. I just think Shane is pushing the envelope. He's clearly a fraction of what Sugar Shane used to be. But I'm disappointed in Cano, Scotty, because number one, I like Cano, but number two, this guy, he doesn't fight enough. Like, he doesn't throw enough punches, and it's like I don't know if it's lazy in the ring. I don't know if it's one of these guys. I used to work with a middleweight who was a killer in sparring, and you couldn't find anybody to fight him in the gym. I mean, he would just be a killer, literally. And then you put him in the ring, and, if his opponent punched him once, he would punch him back once, and it just, he gets caught into those. And I'm not sure, maybe Canelo was like that, but what's your thoughts on Mosley's win, and did he want to get a W to walk away on a positive note, or is he setting himself up for another beating, or what?
I think some fighters just think too much once they get in the ring, and they don't throw punches. They're trying to outthink their opponent. I think Cano might have fallen victim to that, because I thought Shane Mosley gave him the opportunity, especially during the middle rounds, to take that fight. I thought Mosley started off strong and finished strong. He looked like he had the fire early on. I liked what I saw early in the fight, but those middle rounds, it was back to the the fight with Pacquiao and with Mayweather and Canelo, where he just stands and he flicks out the jab, and he's not doing enough. And Cano at that point had the opportunity to take over that fight, and he didn't. And you got to give Mosley credit for a 41-year-old fighter making a comeback who hasn't won a fight since 2009. He finished strong against a much younger guy, and he deserves credit for that. Now, on the other hand, he gets hit too easily anymore, and obviously he isn't the fighter he once was, and he barely got by Cano. So I think he is going to continue. I think that's obvious. I think the buzz right now is Adrian Broner. If he gets by Paulie Malignaggi, that Mosley will be a sacrifice to Adrian Broner, and that fight will be made. Again, that's just buzz. That's just boxing rumor right now, but it makes sense to me. If he gets by Malignaggi, then you may see Broner and Mosley, because that's kind of what Mosley's going to want. I mean, he had to start somewhere, and he did against Cano, but a guy like Mosley, he wants the big fights. He wants big names, and Broner's one of the big names in the sport. And if he beats Malignaggi, then he'll have a title at welterweight, and that's what Mosley will be shooting for. So I think that's what you can look forward to at this point. And unfortunately, I think it would be another beatdown of Shane Mosley. He's just not what he was. And victory this weekend aside, good for him. He got a win after several years of not winning, but I don't expect to see too many W's.
I think 4 years. It's been 4 years since he won. But anyway, all right, the fight that's got all my attention, and I just, first of all, I hate to even chuckle, but it was a great fight. But Denis Ledebev, who I absolutely love. I love this guy, and I've said all along that if he only was able to work, and I don't mean this in a prejudiced way or anything like this, but if he only was able to work with an American trainer, somebody that would teach him a little defense, maybe he wouldn't have ended up getting the beating that he did. And the funny thing about it was he was actually winning not only on the judges' scorecards, but he was landing the punches and everything else. But, dude, I have never, in over 26 years of being involved in the sport, as a fan and everything else, have seen such an incompetence displayed by not only his own team, meaning his corner, his manager, his promoter, but the ringside doctor for letting that fight continue. I mean, some people were saying it should have been stopped in the third. Carl King thought it should have been stopped in the third round. He was there with his fighter, Guillermo Jones. And I, watching the fight, I said, oh, well, by the sixth round, I'm saying this fight can't keep going. It just can't. But the most appalling thing I think I witnessed, and I've said it a lot this week already, was I believe it was in the beginning of the 11th when the ringside, the referee, Stanley Christodoulou, stopped the action, and he brings Denis Ledebev over to the ringside doctor. And the doctor looks at him, right? I don't know if he said, how many fingers am I holding up? And Dennis said 3, and he said, actually 2, but don't worry about it, and he looks at it, he looks at the referee, he gives him a thumbs up, turns Ledebev back, pats him on the back, and pushes him back out towards the center of the ring, letting him continue with that disfigured face that clearly the guy, I don't know, I haven't heard anything about it, but he clearly had some broken bones around his eye and maybe even his cheek. Plus, I don't know how you could even assume he could see anything out of that eye. Every time Jones threw a punch to that side of his head, it landed right on that spot. They were pressing it was gruesome to watch them in the corner taking the end swell and just, taking all the blood out of it. The blood was, it was like, cut me, Mick. I mean, you didn't even have to do it. All they had to do was put a little pressure on it. It was like, popping a zit, for God's sakes. I mean, it was terrible. What's your thoughts on that whole scene? I mean, have you ever seen anything as grotesque and as incompetent as what we saw on Friday night?
Well, grotesque, yeah. I mean, you see a lot of grotesque things in the sport.
Worse than that? I mean, even Holyfield and Rockman, when he had the potato on his head, Carl King said this wasn't a potato. If you saw this live, it looked like, in between rounds, they squeezed a lot of it out, and then it would come right back after one punch. But he said it was like the size of a small football on the side of his head. I mean, he said it was way big. He was ringside for the Holyfield Rockman fight, and he said it was way bigger than that. Well,
it was also around his eye, which presents a greater danger. I mean, I understand all that. I think back to pictures of Carmen Basilio after his fight with Sugar Ray Robinson, and that's pretty gruesome as well. I don't know. I'm probably in the minority, and I'm probably going to get criticized for saying this. I know that the view of that fight, and I'm starting to read it and hear about it now. When I was watching it, I wasn't really thinking, oh, you got to stop it. And I didn't hear a whole lot after, but now I'm starting to hear a lot of, that was disgraceful, that was horrible, it was incompetent, whatever. But watching the fight, I gotta say, in all honesty, my own personal view, I was glad they didn't stop it. Lebedev was still hitting the guy. I mean, he could still obviously see out of the eye, which I think was the main criteria. Could he see?
How could he have seen? How could he see out of that eye?
He could still see.
How?
He was landing on Jones very accurately, and yeah, he was getting hit. But Jones is a tremendous puncher. He really is a hard puncher. And he's going to land his shots too. But I thought Lebedev, even up to the 11th round, was doing very well, and he's the champion. I mean, you don't want to. I mean, you want to protect the guy. I get it. And if his corner thought that, that's up to me. If the referee's not going to do it, the doctor's not going to do it, then the corner needs to protect the guy. But for whatever reason, they let him continue. And maybe it's because they realize he's winning the fight. He's defending his title, and that's he wants to finish the fight. If it was closer, if he was losing, maybe it would have been stopped a lot earlier by his corner. But he was ahead. He was landing punches. Jones showed a tremendous chin in that fight because he took a lot of shots from Lebedev. I just maybe I just too old school, if the guy wants to continue and he's having success, then you let him go. And I thought they did.
Scott, when a fighter gets an unintentional headbutt and they're bleeding from inside the eyelid, and you know damn well that the blood is interfering with the vision and stuff like that, and he's the champion, and he still wants to continue, and he's landing punches, all the reasons you give, I agree with stretching it and pushing the envelope and letting that champion go out like that, But in this case, yes, and I agree. He was landing punches. He rocked Jones several times in that fight, and I also agree about the chin of Jones. Jones had arguably one of the best performances of his career in that fight, But there comes a time when somebody, and we're looking to our team, we're looking to our corner, and of course, when the team is too tough and too bold for their fighter, damn it, I'm looking for the ringside doctor to save the fighter. I mean, at some point in time, you have to look outside the box, forget the champion, forget the title, forget everything, and look at one thing: the safety of the fighter and the safety of this guy after the fight. What's he like today? I haven't heard one thing. What's he doing today? A few days later, a week later, a month later. Did he sustain multiple fractures in his face? Is his career okay? Is his eyesight okay? All these things. Listen, I understand, and nobody's more old school than me, and I love to see these kinds of fights, but there comes a time when the humanity issue has to be thrown in the mix, and I thought that was the case here. And listen, they stopped the fight. Hopefully, there's a rematch clause. They do it again. Things are different. They obviously they won the purse bid. They had it in Russia. They would have it again in Russia. But man, I don't know, man. There was no reason to have this guy go. And listen. As tough as he was and as successful as he was, like you mentioned, landing punches and stuff, when you look at the knockout, it wasn't even a hard punch. It was a grazing punch. He kind of took a knee. It was his way out. Stanley Christodoulou hurried the count as he was rising to his feet. I think Stanley Christodoulou saved him, really, because he would have gotten, another 3 minutes of a pounding on that eye. I think the guy was spent, and there was so much pressure on him from his own people to continue that fight. And I agree, he makes it he goes 3 more minutes, he wins that fight. Every single judge there was no way Jones was going to win that fight unless they stop it. But I don't know, man. I got to disagree with you on. I think that they should have stopped it sooner than they did, and I just hope that he's okay because I like him. I especially now more. So I don't know, man. I very rarely do you and I disagree. But I think the fight should have been stopped before it was.
Well, I don't want to see a fighter permanently injured, and I hope Lebedev isn't permanently injured. And I don't get off on injury or blood or that kind of thing. I wasn't sitting there and enjoying, the gruesome spectacle that, his face represented. But I just have a certain view when it comes to the sport. It's a it's a fight sport. It is a dangerous sport. You're getting punched in the face. Your face is going to take a beating. It's going to get messed up. I think fights get stopped too quickly when you see some blood. To me, these guys are getting paid. This is their careers. This is what they choose to do. I didn't put them in the ring. They choose to get in the ring. They choose to fight. Yeah, you need some rules, and you do need to save a fighter from himself and from his own courage and bravery at times. But I tend to think the thing that bothers me more than the sight of something gruesome, because I think we tend to focus on how something looks too often than maybe a guy whose face isn't marked up but who's taking unbelievable punishment. And to me, the danger of a brain injury or worse is what bothers me more than something like this, where a fighter is getting unnecessarily beaten up. He has no chance of winning. A fight needs to be stopped in that case because that's a serious injury. That's something that it definitely could be permanent, even fatal. But when you have a guy that looks disfigured, I mean, we're not doctors. I mean, I don't know what the damage is. I mean, I know that he probably looks like he got hit with a sledgehammer today, but it could just be things that heal. It's just superficial. It's blood. It's bruising. It's maybe there even is a fracture. But I don't want to sound cold-hearted. I don't want to sound like I don't care. But Devin Alexander fractured his hand. That's what he makes his living with. And no one's crying, and oh my gosh, why didn't they stop it? How could he fight with a broken hand? His career could be over when you break a hand. It's not going to be. Hand injuries heal, and doctors take care of those things, and we've seen many fighters come back from that, but some fighters don't. Some fighters' rest of their career is affected, once they break their hand early in the career. And it's a fracture just the same, whether it's your cheekbone or your hand. We get more offended when it's the cheekbone because it looks gruesome and it looks grotesque. And to me, as long as there's not the danger of serious brain injury, then I can deal with the superficial. I can deal with the blood. I can deal with cuts. I can deal with bruising and swelling and those kind of things, and not feel like, oh my gosh, the fight needs to be stopped. This poor guy. He is the champion. He's defending his belt. He doesn't want it to be stopped. He wants to fight. He's winning the fight, and that's the nature of the sport. That's just the way I feel about it. I don't want a serious permanent injury, but at the same time, I'm looking at him. I don't know that it's a serious permanent injury. It looks ugly, but I don't know that it's something that's going to be, affect the rest of his career.
You're a mean one, Scotty Krause. You make the Grinch look like a Muppet, for God's sakes, But anyway, well, you know what? Let's just pray that Devon Alexander's hand heals. And as far as Denis Lebedev, it was only a little swelling on his face.
Paulie Malignaggi had a fractured orbital bone when he fought Miguel Cotto. He went the distance with it. He looked pretty disfigured. He didn't look as bad as Lebedev, but we're talking about how someone looks. We're not talking about the nature of the injury. You and I don't know the nature of the injury. He might not even have a fracture. We haven't heard yet. But we're going by how it looked. Paulie looked pretty bad.
Paulie still looks
bad. He looked pretty bad, and he had an orbital fracture. He went 12 rounds. He's not permanently scarred. It's part of the sport. It happens in the sport. They play hockey. They get their teeth knocked out. They go back in. They keep playing. That's the nature of that game. It's the nature of boxing to get hit, and sometimes you get pretty messed up in there.
Yeah,
that's the nature of the sport. And if it's a 6-round, fight that doesn't really mean a whole lot, then maybe you step in and you save a guy who has his career ahead of him. But you're talking about a world title fight, and this is the champion, and he's clearly ahead. Then I can understand giving him every opportunity to win, because I would want that. I'm thinking, look, if I'm going to get disfigured, I'm already disfigured, okay, at least let me win the fight. It's far worse than I get disfigured and I lose the fight. At least if I'm winning, let me get through the fight, keep my belt. I can take a nice long rest. I can heal up, but at least I still have my belt.
Yeah, well, I just made a very, very smart decision, Scotty. You will never work my corner, and I'm not going to use the doctor that was hired by the Russian Boxing Commission. But I understand your point, and we'll go from there. But I'm usually right with you, but that was pretty bad. I thought, I thought no way could he see out of that eye. And you couldn't even see his eye in there. It was bad. Are you sure you saw it? Are you sure you watched that thing, man? Because it was bad. It was. But anyway, Scott, I appreciate you for being so tough and everything. And we will definitely look forward to the next time, my man. All right.
Hey, Bill, I can't even get a needle. I mean, come on.
I know. That's what's so funny about it. I mean, we have a tendency to be so tough for these guys. These guys, and I even you want to hear something funny? I actually uttered the same words and caught myself and laughed about it on Monday's show when I said no one deserves to take a beating like this. And I laughed because I'm like, this was what I was the number one critic of Victor Ortiz when he uttered those words, and I like, no one like me or you or a construction guy or a lawyer or a doctor, but a boxer. That's what you sign up for, and I found myself uttering the same words about the Ledebet fight, but anyway, Scott, respect your opinion, and we'll look forward to next time, my man.
All right, Bill, take care.
All right, that's my main man, Scotty Krause, and hey, you heard it from him, man. His thoughts. Hey, listen, I got to take a break. When I come back, my man Alex Papali, Alex Papali is going to be presenting the Blast from the Past, which is a good one. Lloyd Marshall. We'll be right back.
Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. now has official merchandise available on TalkinBoxing.com. T-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, and mugs. And yes, even undergarments. Talkin' Boxing apparel is the perfect gift for the boxing fan in your life. Log on to www.talkinboxing.com. That's TalkinBoxing.com and place your order today.
Join us here for 2 hours as Billy and the gang do what they do best.
Every time I start talking about boxing, a white man got to pull Rocky Marciano out the ass. Rocky Marciano was good, but compared to Joe Louis, Rocky Marciano ain't.
You beat Joe Louis's ass.
Joe Louis was 75 years old when he fought.
Huh?
What?
We're supposed to be talking boxing.
It's Talking Boxing with Billy C.
As Billy C sits here in the multi-million-dollar Talkin' Boxing Studios, sipping a fine wine before you're even out of bed, you should be thinking, damn, I wish I had a mustache like his. It's the Talkin' Boxing with Billy C show. He's Billy C, and you're not. Sucks to be you.
Now let's dig into our archives and hear a rare interview when Billy C first became the champion of boxing talk radio. Hello, Billy C. As the new champ, can we ask you a few questions?
Why, certainly.
Okay, your fans would like to know how you and your corner have successfully walloped the competition.
We're not ordinary people. We're morons.
Anything else?
I'm a victim of circumstance.
Did your success finally come when you made the show 5 days a week for 2 hours? What do you think?
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
Now, please tell the listeners what you've learned from making it this far.
Certainly. If at first you don't succeed, keep on sucking till you do succeed.
Great words of wisdom, Billy C. Keep up the great work as the undisputed People's Champion with your show, Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. Any last words to anyone who's listening?
This is your fault, you bonehead.
And we're back. You're listening to the Talking Boxing with Billy C show. Glad you could join us. And speaking of join us right now, my main man, my real main man, whatever. Alex Papali joins us. What's up, man?
Good morning, Billy C. How you doing?
Quickly, would you hire Scotty Krause to look after your ass in the corner? Jeez, man. I don't know. Am I wrong? What's your feelings on that? You think that they should have let it go?
I did not see the fight. I only saw the photos of what he looked like at the end, and from that, it looks horribly grisly. But I hear what Scott's saying.
Maybe I'm getting soft in my old age. I don't know, man. But I watched the fight. I watched it.
I wouldn't go that far because I haven't seen it. But I mean, I could see the point both you guys are making. You never want to end up disfiguring a guy or permanently damaging a guy. But at the same time, Scott has a point. That,
he uses
fighting back. It could. you don't know. I mean, that's what the doctor's there for. And I mean, if maybe the doctor, with pressing with his fingers, can tell if it's bone or just fluid in there. I don't know.
All the doctor did, as far as putting his hands on him, was turned him back around and pushed him into the. You got to watch the fight, Alex. You got to watch it because
I do have to see it.
Yeah, it was bad.
It was really good too.
Oh, it was a great fight, and Scotty's got a point. In my opinion, to a point. I mean, he's right. Ledebev wasn't getting battered. I mean. Yeah, every time Jones landed a punch, he found that same spot, which you got to give credit to him. And it was all caused by punches. It wasn't like you could say, oh, it was a headbutt, it was an elbow, it was this, it was that. And I agree with Scott to a degree about, he was still fighting and he was the champ. He was the hometown guy and all of that. But there comes a point when you just. It's over. And I found it funny that he uses Devon Alexander breaking his hand as a comparison. I mean, there is no comparison. Even if, talk about a career-ending hand injury, okay, that's unfortunate. But we're not talking about a career-ending face injury. We're talking about a life-altering injury, that could possibly, and I don't know. And Scott's 100% right. We don't know. It could be fine today. It could have just been, gruesome looking. But from what I've seen in the ring, this guy not only had broken orbital bones, probably in multiple places, but the way his cheek, in some of the post-fight photos, his cheek was actually, concaved in. I mean, it's like
it looked like there was, from the photo that I saw, it looked like there was a cut under the swelling and over the swelling.
Well, the original cut, I got the whole skinny from Carl King. The original cut actually happened in the very first round from a punch, and it was in the corner of the eye, right where towards the outside of your skull, the outside part of your eyelid was cut right there. So it was one of those kinds of cuts that generally get opened up, as the fight goes on. So as Jones was aiming for that. He was, nailing the areas above, below, to the side, and it just compounded. And you're right, it ended up being multiple cuts. But after the sixth round, I didn't even see his eye. And granted, I was watching on TV, but I mean, I didn't see his eyeball. A lot of times you see these really bad. Yeah, even Israel Vasquez, for God's sakes, you see how beat up he was. You at least saw the eyeball in there in between rounds, okay, maybe you can see a little, and I mean, he looked like, I'll never forget him walking out for the last fight against Marquez, and it looked like, if he bumped into somebody, his eye was going to, swell up and bleed, I mean, that's how the scar tissue was. But watch the fight and then give me your thoughts, because...
yeah, I definitely want to watch it. Also, just because I am amazed that Guillermo Jones, I mean, he's one of these guys that I can remember, who was it that he beat? O'Neal Bell? It was somebody that he beat, and I remember seeing it saying, wow, this guy's going to really be something. And then he's been absolutely plagued with inactivity, and now to see him get a big win like this, it does make you say, boy, you wish the guy fought more often. But those are the two fights that I did not see this weekend in terms of the real, grisly brutality of the sport, and that's the Guillermo Jones, Lebedev one, and also the Mosley one. I only watched a little bit of the Mosley one.
Well, that wasn't gruesome. That was boring, but
well, just because I like him so much, seeing him take punishment now.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Just like you have that huge photo of our boy Mike Tyson getting battered by. Yeah, I see how much you care about your heroes, man. From what I hear, you're getting Marvin's tattoo crossed off. You're putting Sugar Ray Leonard's on there now too. But
yeah, but I'm gonna get a picture of Marvin doing that little two-step he did at the end of the Leonard.
Right. But I don't know, man.
We knew he lost.
Yeah, I know.
He knew he lost right then.
The one other thing I want to just mention about Jones real quick is the other thing that's fascinating about him, and a lot of people forget, is that he was a junior middleweight champion too. So I mean, and now they're talking about possibly getting a shot at heavyweight at Klitschko, or the winner of Klitschko-Povetkin. So anyway, Lloyd Marshall is our blast from the past. What a great choice he is. And tell us about this guy, man.
Well, Billy C., this is another one of those guys that I did not know much about. And because we're coming up on the Boxing Hall of Fame induction weekend, it's always great to go there to the card show they have. And there's a couple of books that I know cover this guy that I got to get my hands on, because even reading about him in the newspaper articles, it seems that there's a whole side of this guy that didn't come out until later, and that was some of the aspects of how some of the promoters, and I mean there was organized crime involved here in keeping him away from the title, as well as just plain racism. Racism that I found kind of strange. It's almost like it increased again after Joe Louis faded away. Where I don't know, just interesting in some of the ways the articles are written and stuff. But yeah, Lloyd Marshall, born.
It was. I don't mean to interrupt you, but it seemed like it was selective racism. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Well, it was. Yeah, it was very odd because there just seems to be a tone in some. I mean, we're talking, the 40s and 50s, and I mean, especially towards the 50s, where Lewis had retired by then. I don't know. I mean, maybe there's no connection at all, but to me, it almost seemed like some of things stepped back a bit after Lewis left. I don't know. The way that some of the phrases they use, they're very. A lot of the articles, they're very quick to point out, almost like they were in the teens and 20s, about how this was a mixed match. It was a Negro versus a white man. They're not as quick to use, color distinctions as they did, in the Jim Crow era. But I was still surprised to see that this is the 50s. Late 40s and early 50s where you're still getting this, but that's America. That's part of our past. And we still have racial issues, but certainly not as blatant as it was back then.
Thank God. Thank God. I didn't mean to throw you off on your train of thought. I just, it seemed, because there were some black champions that did get the shots. Sugar Ray Robinson obviously is one of them. But then there was others that were clearly not permitted to fight, like Lloyd Marshall and Charlie Burley and Jimmy Bivens and all those guys. So. But anyway,
they actually had a group that was called the Black Murderers Row.
Great book, by the way.
Lloyd Marshall was one of these guys.
Yeah, great book, by the way. Lloyd Marshall fought. I love this line because we say it every time we do a blast. He fought everybody, but this guy.
I was waiting for you to say that because this guy, it is so true about
scary. It's scary, and here's the thing. I mean, not only did he fight and beat, he fought many world champions, but he beat 9 world champions, and we're talking about the value of the word world champion in Lloyd Marshall's era is so much more than today. When you talk about a world champion, there was one. A middleweight world champion, there was one. Today you could say, oh, I defeated, 9 world champions, but, a middleweight, there could be 5, and you defeated one of the 5, So, the strength of that statement to say that he beat 9 is unbelievable. Now, as far as I know, he never won any kind of a title, even when he fought for, state championships. He never won any title, did he?
No, not that I saw. But what I saw that sometimes, and you hate to say this, but it's almost like a guy who doesn't get to win a title, it almost like you have to take more comfort in being referred to as this. He was called often like uncrowned champion, or one of the things they called him was duration world champion, and I assume that meant duration of the war, because this was in '43 at one point when, after he beat Ezzard Charles, and didn't just beat him, thrashed him, but that was the first time they met. Another thing they called him was the #1 civilian light heavyweight.
Yeah, a lot of the champions were drafted, and they were able to keep their titles, just like when Joe Louis went to when he was in the Army during the war, and they had did he win a title while
no, not that I saw,
right.
But you know how like they did that with Frazier was certainly more blatant because Ali, was removed from the picture, and even before he had the title, they still thought of him as like the uncrowned champion. It was sort of that kind of thing.
He fought Oakland Billy Smith and some other names from Murderers Row like Holman Williams, another guy we did, Archie Moore a bunch of times. I mean, the names are just unbelievable. And early on in his career, I mean, he fought this level of guy many times, amazing. The wins, that he got with guys like Babe Ritzko and Teddy Yaretz, champions. Lou Broulard, who was another blast from the past that we did. Charlie Burley, who I thought was one of the best fighters of all time. I mean, it's unbelievable. And he fought for a long time. I mean, all the way from when he started in 1936, he fought through 1951 was his last fight with virtually no time off. I mean, it was just a consistent time, that he fought fight after fight after fight.
Yeah, and from what I'm reading, it looks like he had a really big punch. He didn't have the greatest chin. A lot of times they call him a clever boxer or a classy boxer. There are a couple clips of him on YouTube, and one thing, and this goes to exactly what I think was just last week we were talking about. There was one clip I didn't post yet, but I am going to post it today. But I posted 2 clips of him in winning efforts to the Twitter, the show's Twitter feed. And there's another one that I watched. It's going to be a little harder for today's fan to watch because there's no sound, and the speed is a little off, but it is amazing. I think it's the 3rd encounter with Ezzard Charles, and it's the one that Ezzard Charles won, where Ezzard Charles wins by 6-round TKO. So, again, that's one of the things we see about, it's their second meeting. Their third one, Charles won by a 2nd-round knockout. So, again, that speaks to how great Charles was he lost the first fight by 8th-round knockout, and Lloyd Marshall dropped him 8 times. And then in their rematch, Charles turned it around, and then in their rubber match, he beat him even quicker. But it's really worth watching for fans of this sport because the thing that's amazing, Bill, is you can see the smoke rising from the crowd. The fighting is fierce, and it's really fast-paced. But like I said, I think maybe some fans, some of these Xbox generation guys might have a little difficulty paying full attention to it because it's only one camera angle and it is no sound. But if you're able to focus on it, you're going to see some really good boxing because I just was amazed at the skill that I was watching.
Cool stuff. And, as Charles, keep in mind that, he changed his game after he, unfortunately killed someone in the ring. He never really sought a knockout again after that. And and I know that the fights with Marshall were after that, so, you could tell how, they really went after each other, you know. And this guy, even towards the end of his career, was still fighting name fighters. You know, he lost his last 3. But Harry Matthews, Bobo Olsen, and Don Cockle were the 3 losses that he lost, all by knockout. And if my memory serves me correctly, didn't Don Cockle fight Rocky Marciano?
I think he might have, because that name did ring a bell, like so many of the guys on this guy's record.
Freddie Mills. I mean, you start looking at. I mean, really, it's almost comical if you look at this guy's record of who he fought. And you just start and you read the names out loud, and even if you're by yourself and you read them out loud, you're going to recognize. Even the youngest fans today, they're going to recognize some of these names, and. It's amazing.
And what we didn't mention yet, Jake LaMotta.
I know. It's amazing. It's amazing.
And as a matter of fact, they said some people thought that was the worst beating of LaMotta's career.
And he won.
That Lloyd Marshall gave him.
And he won the
Lloyd
fight.
Marshall didn't think much of LaMotta. After he beat him, he felt that any member of Black Murderers Row could defeat the Bronx Bull.
He also fought Curtis Shepard. Wasn't he the Hatchet Man? Curtis Shepard?
I don't know.
Yeah, he was the Hatchet Curtis the Hatchet Shepard. In 1943, he fought him and beat him. But anyway,
he even had he beat Joey Maxim, and when we talk about the idea of like Mayweather stepping up to fight Martinez, you know how many pounds Maxim outweighed Lloyd Marshall by?
How many?
21.
You see, now back then, you were allowed to challenge anybody and move up to their weight class, and they didn't care about the weight difference. If you wanted to fight somebody's, that's bigger than you, and in this case, Maxim bigger, more power to you. Today, with all due respect and to not criticize the fighters of today, most commissions won't let a fight. And they vary anywhere from 5 to 7 pound swing, where they won't let you fight, even if you're moving up in weight. So to defend some of today's fighters, the rules have changed a little bit. But anyway, what happened to Lloyd? What did he do after his boxing career? After a long boxing career, I know he passed away at a ripe old age of 83. But actually, I should start looking at that. He died so young at 83. The older I get, I want to see people living to 120. But what did he do?
I don't know. I don't know. That's one of the reasons why this is another one of those guys that he kind of. As much as I found out, he raised more questions than anything else.
Well, Lloyd Marshall, thank God he was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 2010. And, I'd like to see guys like this because it puts somewhat a little more confidence back in the International Boxing Hall of Fame, knowing that they're picking guys for their talent rather than other reasons, which I could get into, which I'm not. But anyway, and hold the thought for a second. But Lloyd Marshall, career record. There's conflicting career records, but the one I'm going to use is 70 wins, 36 by knockout, 25 losses, stopped 11 times of those 25 losses. He had 4 draws. He lived to 83 years old, 738 rounds as a pro with a 36% knockout ratio. Lloyd Marshall. Clearly a blast from the past. Good job there, Alex, as usual. One thing, did you catch the show the other day? We were talking about, I know I did a blast on Elmer Ray one time, and then I also did a heavyweight spotlight with my man Tony Treem on Elmer Ray, and, very limited stuff. There's no death certificate. Nobody knew what he did after his career and everything else. Well, I don't know if you caught the show, but his granddaughter reached out to me after finding the show we did on him, and wants to talk and tell us the whole story of what happened with Elmer Ray, where he ended up, what the rest of his life was like. His son, which is her father, is basically an expert on his whole career. So, maybe we'll answer some questions, and hopefully we get that kind of luxury with a guy like Lloyd Marshall.
That is so awesome. Yeah, I did hear that. I'm really excited to find out, what you guys find out from her, to find out about her family members. I mean, that's just very cool.
Yeah, I love that. I loved reading that email. At first, I was like, what's this? Am I going to get in trouble again? You know, what did I do now? Big fights this weekend. You're going to be ringside for Delvin Rodriguez against Freddie Hernandez. And interesting side note, Delvin Rodriguez is now trained by the very first boxer that I ever managed in Finelli Felice, who we did get a world heavyweight shot with him, title shot. He is also from Connecticut. And what's your thoughts on Delvin Rodriguez fighting Freddie Hernandez? Delvin, in my opinion, he's always that one fight away from really making it, and then he just hasn't been consistent. I said to Emily yesterday, the only consistent thing about Delvin at times is inconsistency. Do you think he's turned that corner based on his last couple of fights, and how do you think he's going to do tomorrow night?
I think he should do okay, and I do think that maybe things are going to be looking up. I mean, I think he had a really good win over Tananapa earlier this year. What was that, in February? I mean, yes, it was Comanche Boy coming down in weight, but Rodriguez looked really good, very strong, and and he did beat an unbeaten guy. So I do think that he's got some momentum going into this. Freddie Hernandez, I don't know. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing this fight. I think it's pretty good. The ESPN Friday Night Fights cards haven't been all that great lately. This one should turn things around. At least I'm hoping so.
Yeah, on paper they look good, but and it's not their fault. Sometimes when you have something good on paper, and then it turns out to be a stinker. But the other fight, of course, is Kessler against Carl Froch, a big fight, a rematch. Everybody's been waiting for that one for a long time. It's a unification. Is Carl Froch going to even the score?
I think he is. Carl Froch, I think, is one of the very best fighters in the sport. I think he's a little underrated for how great he is. I think even if it comes down to, I think you had mentioned it with Scotty, that it's possible this is going to set up a third match. I mean, if we see a repeat of what we did last time, it's just likely to break Froch's way, just because of where the fight's taking place. I mean, you hate to say that, but that's life. Sometimes that. We know how subjective this sport is, and if it's going to be close, that might be all it takes to get some of the close rounds to break the other direction. I think it's going to be more than that. I think Kessler's inactivity, has kind of hurt him. I think he's very skilled, but I just think that Froch, has been more. He's fought everyone, this guy, and there's only been a few guys. I mean, the only people that have given him a hard time are some of the very top guys in their divisions, So, I mean, you can't fault the guy for losing to Andre Ward. So I do like Froch to even the score.
It's funny, Froch, the trouble that he's had is with guys who box well, like Miguel Kessler, and also you mentioned Andre Ward, who, by the way, I give him 100% kudos for turning around and trashing the WBC for what they pulled with him. But I'm going to go back to Carl Froch's defense. Fighting with your hands down, man, it's never a good idea. I don't care how good you are. But you're not going to ask him to change that habit now. He's 35. He's on the downswing of his career. So
and that's part of his charm. I mean, and I think that might help work for him in this, because if he's going to have to draw Kessler into a bit of a slugging match, and I think if between that style and the crowd, I think he might be able to do that, and the more Kessler bangs with him, the more the rounds break for Froch. So I think it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be another close one, though, and a competitive one. I
agree with you. Thanks, brother. You did a great job on the blast as usual, and thanks for your insight on all the other stuff. And if you can, watch that fight, man. I'm curious to know what you thought.
Check Guillermo Jones out. And if I could just throw one line in there about Matisse, I do think that against Floyd, I mean, even though he's never fought at welterweight, I do think Matisse represents something that We haven't seen Floyd in there in sort of the same way Mayorga did to Forrest, because Matisse is much more controlled than Mayorga, but the way he whips those left hooks, it would be interesting if Floyd can time those properly.
Yeah, no, that's gonna be a new poll question, man. You know, I want to head the movement, man. Let's get Matisse and Floyd in there. I want to see that. I want to see that more than Alvarez. I really do.
Yeah, and I think that it's a no-brainer if he flattens Danny Garcia, which I think he could. That's going to be the fight everyone wants to see.
Yeah, no. Hey, I would rather see it before Danny Garcia. Really. You know, I think that's a better fight for boxing fans than watching. I know the unification and all of that, but I think it's a better fight to watch than a Danny Garcia matchup.
Yeah, could be.
That's my thoughts anyway. But Alex, great job, and watch that fight, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, will do. Take care, Billy.
That's Alex Papali, and doing his weekly blast from the past. As well as his thoughts on some other stuff. I got to take a break. When I come back, I got the ESPN news. I got a whole bunch of news. We'll be right back.
Talking Boxing with Billy C. Every week, 2 hours of the best boxing talk on the radio.
I have a bunch of questions, Donnell, right? If you feel like you want to, you can answer for JD first. Why will you win? JD Chapman, why will you win?
Baby Holmes will get sick and get hit by a train that day on the way to the fight, or he might have diarrhea, he might have the flu, he might throw up. One of his eyeballs might fall out that day, and I might get lucky.
Talking Boxing with Billy C.
In the real world, life has its shares of trials and tribulations, but you don't have to face them alone. This is Patricia Campanaro of Campanaro and Tomkovich. If you are facing emotionally difficult family legal issues from divorce to child custody, reach out to the team that will dedicate themselves to fighting for you, the team of Campanaro and Tomkovich. With almost 30 years of experience handling divorce, child custody, legal guardianship, visitation, and other legal issues dealing with family concerns, we can help you resolve the problems you are facing with professionalism and care. Our supportive staff is always ready to assist you with any questions or concerns you may have. To find out more about Campanaro and Tomkovich, visit us at duchessnylaw.com or call us and speak to a member of our attentive staff at 845-221-4099. That's 845-221-4099. Don't be surprised at court with inexperienced representation. At Campanaro and Tomkovich, we have been helping our clients get the justice they deserve for almost 30 years, and we could do the same for you.
Now back to Talking Boxing with Billy C. He may not have an Excellence in Broadcasting award, but the night's still young.
And he's got martinis.
So you never know what may be by morning. It's Talking Boxing with Billy C.
Talking Boxing with Billy C.
The one, the only, Don King.
Makes me feel good, Billy, to have you, the #1 show in the country, Talking Boxing with Billy. So I invite each and every American that's listening to this great show to tune in, because we want you to be there with Billy and me.
St. Jimmy's coming down across the alleyway, up on the boulevard like a zip gun on parade. Lights on the silhouette, he's just a butter net, coming at you on the count of 1, 2.
And we're back. You're listening to the Talking Boxing with Billy C show. You know, I got the column up on BillyCBoxing.com, and I don't update. Unfortunately, I don't have the time to update my column as much as all of our other much better writers than myself. But if you're interested, I got a couple of things that are going to be coming out. Number one, I'm doing a piece on Don King, which I think you're all going to like or hate, but there'll be no in-betweens. And I'm also doing a piece on the Cecilia Brækhus and how much of a chicken beep she is. So I'll be talking about that. So look for my column as well as all the other contributors on our website that contributes to this show and the website, I should say. So check that out, BillyCBoxing.com. Look for the new poll question, which is going to be, I want to be responsible. I want to take the lead here. Lucas Matisse versus Floyd Mayweather Jr. That's the fight I want to see. Forget Canelo, man. Yeah, listen, I don't care how much of a fan you are of Canelo Alvarez. Floyd's going to destroy him. It's not going to be a competitive fight. I think we saw a more competitive fight with Robert Guerrero than we're going to see with Saul Alvarez. Even though Saul's got the power and stuff like that, he's a plotter. He doesn't have the hand speed. He doesn't have the foot speed. Floyd's going to tear him up. Anyway, it was announced yesterday that ESPN laid off 400 employees. Now, they have over 7,000 employees worldwide, but 400 got the pink slips yesterday. And the company, who's owned by Disney, actually said that despite record earnings for the last 8 quarters, they've been showing profits, big-time profits for ESPN, that they feel that they're losing their competitive edge, and by laying off these 400 people, and keep in mind that those numbers are kind of a little padded because there were new positions that were created too that hadn't been filled yet that they eliminated. So the wording is that they eliminated 400 positions. As far as actual layoffs, that number has not been released, but 400 people basically aren't getting a job, whether they were working there or not, which is interesting because usually the bean counters who make these financial decisions usually make them specifically for money and don't really look at the other tangibles that go involved. At least, that's my experience with corporate USA. But a couple of interesting things. Now, we don't know anything about the boxing end of this, how it's going to affect the boxing end. But let me tell you this. One of the main reasons ESPN execs have stated that they did indeed have these layoffs was due to live programming, which obviously boxing is part of, that they want to focus more on live programming. And the fact that live programming is in more of a demand, even though the viewership, this was an interesting thing, even though the viewership was lower because of DVR and DVR capabilities and stuff like that, but the fans still want to watch the events. Even if they tape them, they would rather watch them at their own leisure or live. So in other words, a replay being broadcast for the first time is not something that the viewers want to see. They would rather DVR an event and then watch it later that day or the next day rather than watching a tape delay of it, okay? Either that or the live event. And just to give you they cite that the live event coverage and licensing fees and all of that has risen drastically, and that's really the main reason for these layoffs. And just to give you an example of how much, not that I'm sticking up for ESPN at all, trust me, but the BCS, now I don't know if you guys follow college football, but the BCS is going to a new playoff system this year. And to do that, the cost of providing that service to fans is going to cost ESPN $470 million a year. That's for 1 year. $470 million. Now, just to give you a comparison, the BCF Championship Series, which now, before the playoff series, it consisted of primarily the Sugar Bowl, the Orange Bowl, and the Fiesta Bowl, and then, of course, the Championship Bowl, which crowned our champion, which is my boys, Alabama. And that fee for 1 year was $125 million. So substantial increase for the playoff structure of the college football. What does it all mean for boxing? I don't know, but it happened yesterday, so maybe we'll get a taste on what that's going to mean come Friday. Speaking of some stuff that's going on, Miguel Cotto is counting on coming back, and the target date is September 28th. The location, Brooklyn, New York. That's right, man. He's looking to fight in Brooklyn. Don't know who it's going to be, but they're looking at several different opponents. But first, they had to figure out when and where Cotto would be coming back. And we all know that Cotto has fought at Madison Square Garden several times and does very well with the Puerto Rican fans. They love Miguel Cotto, and he's a big draw still. So I'm glad to see that he's still continuing, even though he had said several times that, excuse me, that he no longer wanted to fight after he was 30. Now he's 31. Maybe he's even 32 now. But anyway, Emilio Marino, he's the WBA bantamweight world champion. Apparently, he's no longer under the promotional tutelage or contract or ties with Golden Boy. He's looking to fight again in July. The projected date is July 20th, and it's not going to be under the Golden Boy banner, which seems kind of weird. Lately and Shane Mosley was one of the guys, although the fight that he just recently fought against Pablo Cesar Cano was a Golden Boy production, but he's a guy that's been pretty vocal about walking away from Golden Boy. Now you got Emilio Marino, and I think you're going to start to see other fighters walking away from Golden Boy. The misconception was that they were all for the fighters, but as is any promoter, I mean, in order for a promoter to make money, they got to look out for the promotional team. So keep your eyes peeled for Golden Boy losing some other fighters, because I think that they will. Audley Harrison, what was it, 2 weeks ago? Immediately following the Deontay Wilder fight, maybe 3 weeks ago, he announced his retirement. Said he just doesn't have it anymore. It fell short of his goal. It was a tearjerker. His official statement. I started boxing late. I came from a bad neighborhood. I got into the Olympics. I won the gold. I never thought I'd get that far. I started a pro career. My goal was to become a world champion. Didn't make it. Won the prize fighter. Had several big fights under his belt. Was a guy that the late, great Johnny Boz said to me one time that, it's too bad he wasn't serious about boxing, because he could have been one of the greatest. Freakish power. But the knock on Fraudly Embarrassing, which my British fans like to call him, or A Farce. His nickname is A Force. His real name, Audley Harrison, of course. The knock on him is his dedication to the sport. And although rumor had it that he was, successful financially, didn't need the money, a lot of some of these fights that he went in, like, the recent fight with Deontay Wilder where he was blown out, the David Haye fight, he's blown out. These fights just don't seem like, he just went there for the payday. It doesn't seem like he really tried or whatever. Well, he retired less than a month ago. And it was announced yesterday that he's coming back. Yeah, he's making a comeback already. All right. He says, I spoke to a lot of people. He said, including David Haye. Imagine that. He spoke to the British Boxing Board of Control. He spoke to Lennox Lewis, his family, including his father, his wife. And many other people, and based on a lot of input from them, he's made the official announcement that he's going to come back to the ring. One thing I want to add, he said, he just had a new son. It was his baby son was just born on last Thursday, so he'll be a week old tomorrow. And he said, after I saw my son being born, and after I talked to these people, I knew that my decision was right. Yeah, you think it was after he saw the son being born, or after the doctor handed him the bill? And he said, oh, my God, man, maybe I don't have enough money, man. Another kid? I better get another fight under my belt, pad my bank account a little more. I think that's what we're going to get from Audley. I'd be shocked if this guy comes out and just sets the boxing world on fire. Listen, he's going to be put in there with another up-and-comer, and he's going to get offered a lot of money. He's going to take his beating quickly. And that's going to be that. Listen, Audley Harrison will not win his next fight unless they hand him, a come back and get a W fight. But his next major fight, he will not win because he doesn't train. He doesn't train anymore. And by the way, he's living, I believe, in California. But anyway, Demetrius Andrade, remember him? He was a U.S. Olympian. was an amateur standout, and he's a pretty damn good pro. We were very critical of him for months and months and months and even years about his two promoters. He's got combo promoters, my man Joe DeGuardia from Star Boxing and Art Pulo from from actually Banner Promotions, it's called. But the thing is that we were critical of his level of opposition. When he finally stepped it up, he seems to have possessed the same talent that he did against obscure opposition, and I think most of us agree that he is the real deal. Well, he became the mandatory challenger for Zaurbek Baysengurov of Russia. And, it looks like this fight, there was a purse bid for this fight that took place in April. And Baysengurov's promoter won the bid with $500,000. $501,200 was the winner. And believe it or not, Joe DeGuardia and Banner Promotions, they were the only other bid, and they came in $100,000 less. They came in at $401,000. So I give them credit. I mean, they were bidding like they wanted this fight in the U.S., but it looks like the location and the date of the fight will be announced soon. But the bottom line is that it most likely is going to be in Russia. Just so you know, Andrade has not hit 20 wins yet. He's only 25 years old, 19-0 with 13 knockouts. His last fight was against the guy who's fighting Friday night, Freddie Hernandez, and it was in January. Baysengurov has only lost one fight. He's 28-1 with 20 knockouts. He's only 28, and he will be making his third defense of his world title. So we'll be looking forward to that. I know I am, because I want to see him against a top guy, and this arguably, by far, won't even be an argument that that's the best opponent that he's ever faced. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Yesterday, we were just talking about Juan Urango when my dream girl Emily Harney was on, and she was saying we were talking about Devon Alexander, and she made reference to what she thought was his last really good performance prior to this past weekend was against Juan Urango, and both she and I were ringside for that fight. She was closer than me, of course, taking photos on the apron. But and I said after she got off the air, I was like, man, I wonder what happened to Juan Urango. Haven't heard nothing since. Well, it was announced yesterday that he will be coming back to the ring. And the date isn't set yet, but it looks like he's going to be on a card going against Jorge Paez Jr. And Paez Jr.'s got a record of 34 wins, 4 losses, and a draw, with 20 of his wins coming by knockout. And Juan Urango, former IBF world champ, his record stands at 24-3-1 with 19 knockouts. It's supposed to be taking place on June 8th. And also Jose Zapata is scheduled to take on Urbano and Tillion. So we got a couple of good fights happening on June 8th. So that's pretty soon. So we'll be looking forward to that. Frez Oquendo, who's also fighting on June 8th, which is really only two weeks away, right? 2 or 3 weeks away. Man, did this month go by. Frez Oquendo, was against that tough TBA. Well, they had to get a substitute for TBA. Yeah, Derek Rossi is filling in for TBA. Fast Freddy, Fast Frez. He should be Fast Freddy, right? Fast Frez Oquendo, 35-7, still trying to get another world title shot. He's taking on Derek Rossi, who's 28-6 with 14 knockouts. Here's the thing. I like Derek Rossi, and I think the reason why is because I got to meet him personally years ago in Gleason's with his then trainer, and I also got to see and hang out with him in Denmark when he fought the big guy. I can't think of his name right now, but he's a top 10 guy. didn't come out too well on that fight. But I like Derek Russ. He's a very respectable guy, underrated. And I actually think this might be a pretty even fight. Fred Oquendo has been hand-picking fighters, trying to stay busy and earn his shot at another belt. But I think this fight might be interesting. So we'll have to wait and see. The only problem is Derek Russ has been stopped in his last couple of fights. So, he very well may be spent. But check this out. There's a lightweight on the card called Frankie the Time Bomb Scalisi. How about that, man? I love the nicknames, and you see those on the Bobby Hitch shows. This is another one of those Bobby Hitch shows in Chicago. The Chicago area. It's in Illinois, so keep your eyes on that. We might even have someone ringside covering that one, hopefully. And finally, I just want to announce another fight that's taking place next week, June 1st. Hernan Tyson Hernandez, who I love this guy, is going to be taking on Carlos Tamara, which is going to be a pretty good fight. It's going to be for the world elimination for the WBO World Flyweight title. It's taking place June 1st, so we will see another good one. So we got a lot of good fights coming our way real soon. So speaking of good fights, we got a really good challenge this week. There's really only 6 fights, so if you want to be part of the Billy C Challenge, drop me an email, billy@talkinboxing, TALKINBOXING.com, and I'll hook you up with that. But please, we only want serious people that want to be involved, and that means you have to have the time to do your picks every single week. And if you do so, you win the prize, because we give away prizes monthly and yearly.
Wake up. It's time for It's too early for a trivia question.
Speaking of prizes, I want to give out a prize right now for our It's Too Early for a Trivia question. But before that, I'm still looking for somebody, a longtime listener, that can identify who Cecil was. Do you remember Cecil? We had a character named Cecil on our show. Well, it was several years ago. So for all you long-time listeners, think back. Go back to your memory banks, especially for the premium podcast subscribers. You could go way back and pick up some of those shows and see if you can find out who Cecil was. There's a T-shirt in line. As a matter of fact, I got a KO Fantasy Boxing T-shirt. I got a couple of those left. So that would be a great gift for you. So check that out. And if you know who Cecil was, even if you come close to describing who Cecil was on our show, you'll win the prize. You got to be the first one to email me, billy@talkinboxing, TALKINBOXING.com. All right, here's our trivia question, which is being sponsored by Turning Stone Resort and Casino in my Verona, New York. Check it out. Turning Stone Resort and Casino is a great place to go for gaming and restaurants and entertainment. And oh, by the way, there's a great fight taking place at the Turning Stone on June 7th. It's the Friday of the International Boxing Hall of Fame weekend, and I'm going to be there, and I want you to be there too. So pick up some tickets now. I'm telling you, this fight's going to sell out because of the Hall of Fame weekend. So buy tickets right now. You can get them through our website, www.BillyCBoxing.com, and click on the fight poster, which is the first one on the right-hand side. Click it. It will take you right to the ticket box office. Get yourself some tickets. Drop me an email. Tell me where you're sitting and where we can meet, because I want to meet all you guys. So I plan to be very busy on June 7th. So today's It's Too Early for a Trivia question, which is supplied to us by our very own trivia question guru, Henry Haskup, is kind of a tough one. It's not, I'm going to give you guys a hint right now. It's not the Gibbons brothers. I've gotten at least 8 answers. People trying to guess this one. They're saying the Gibbons brothers. No, it's not the Gibbons brothers. But here's the question. Name the biggest group of brothers who each retired with more than 100 pro bouts under their belt. Remember, each of the brothers, the largest group of brothers, who each retired with more than 100 pro bouts under their belt. I will give you one hint today. All right, I'm going to give you one hint. There's 4 brothers. There's 4. So the Gibbons, there was only 2. So I'm giving you a huge hint. There's 4 brothers that fought, and they all had 100 fights or more. If you know the answer, email me, Billy@TalkinBoxing, TalkinBoxing.com.
This day in boxing history.
And finally, this day in boxing history is being brought to us by Campanaro and Tomkovich. If you're looking for a lawyer, use the ones that keep my ass out of trouble. That is Campanaro and Tomkovich. Give them a call today, 845-221-4099. Tell them Billy C sent you, and then I'm going to pick up the consultation fee, 845-221-4099. On this day, May 22nd, 1941, Gus Lenenovich wins a 15-round decision over Anton Christophoridis to win the NBA World Light Heavyweight title, and that took place in New York City. Gus Lenenovich would go on to unify the titles a couple of months later, August 26, 1941, when he beat Tammy Morello over 15 rounds. Another thing that happened on this day, interesting, in 1993, on this day, May 22nd in 1993, Roy Jones Jr. wins a 12-round decision over Bernard Hopkins to win the vacant IBF World Middleweight title. It took place in Washington, D.C. It was 20 years ago today that this fight took place, and both of these fighters are still fighting. Imagine that. I got one more thing to say. Make sure you tune in tomorrow morning, same bat time, same bat channel, the Fight Now channel. Call your local television provider and tell them you want the Fight Now channel 82 Sports channel lineup. It's that simple. Pick up the phone and call. For all the information about the channel, you can visit the website, www.fightnow.com. See you all tomorrow. Ciao, baby.